Well, maybe we're finally getting out of January stink. Robocop is the remake or reboot of the movie Robocop from the 80s. But this time, Alex Murphy, he gets exploded in a car bomb. Wow. He's a good cop, and they're dirty cops. It's in the near future, like pretty near, I would say. Maybe like 10, 15 years into the future. And this company, Omnicorp, they develop drones, and they're all overseas protecting people. But America doesn't want them, so they decide to put this guy Robocop on the streets, and that's pretty much the gist of the movie. And going into this movie, I wasn't very excited at all because I love the original Robocop. I think it's a masterpiece. I don't think there's any reason why this movie needed to be remade. So, like I said, going in, the trailers, it wasn't necessarily terrible, but it didn't look good. Coming out, I actually had a fair amount of fun with Robocop. It's a very enjoyable movie in my opinion. The main guy who plays Robocop, his name's Joel Kinnaman, and I thought there were times where he was good in the movie, but I thought there were also times where he wasn't that good. It was a mixed performance for me, like when he actually had like this emotionless thing and was actually being like Robocop without emotions, that part worked really well, but there were just a few scenes where I thought it was like, that's okay. Michael Keaton is the head of Omnicorp, and he is just fantastic in this movie. He's really shitty, he's not a good person, and he plays that role really well. Jackie Earle Haley is very good in the movie. Gary Oldman plays the doctor who kind of gives Alex Murphy his suit, and he's really good in the movie too. I really liked his performance. His character was one of the only people you could really root for in the movie. Samuel L. Jackson has an interesting role in this movie because he plays like a talk show host who is, you know, very opinionated, and there were times where I thought it worked. Like, they opened the movie with him talking about how America is and how America should be, and that scene worked really well. And there was a scene at the end that was pretty funny, and it worked. But other times, like, they just insert him in the middle, and I feel like they could have done it a different way rather than just plopping Samuel L. Jackson back in there to just explain the plot to us. Now, one big worry I had going into this movie was the fact that Robocop in the 80s, in the original movie, he was just a robot. He was that. His person, Alex Murphy, was dead. He was just a robot, and he found his humanity. What this movie seemed like it was doing, he just had his humanity the whole time, and that was gonna be it. They take a different route with it, and it kind of goes from like him being human to dehumanizing him, and it was an interesting contrast to see how it kind of just went differently than the original. I don't mind the fact that this is different from the original, because I would rather that than it be a shot-for-shot remake. But I was also worried about how it was going to be PG-13, but surprisingly, it really didn't bother me at all. I thought all the scenes that needed, like, a gore-ish type thing going on actually had it, and it worked out pretty well for the movie. The action is pretty enjoyable. The final like big action scene in the movie is really cool. It's intense, it's fun to watch. Some of the action is pretty generic, like when they're doing this testing sequence with Robocop in the middle of the movie, and he's just like, he's shooting up all these little drones, and it's like, oh, okay, and there's generic rock music going. It's like, whatever. You know what was cool though? At the title sequence of the movie, they played the original Robocop theme. I wish they played it more in the movie because they play like once or twice and that was it. One thing I wish they did more in the movie was social commentary, because that's what the original had. It had a lot of social satire really, but this movie they don't really do that. At the beginning they kind of hint at it with the drones being overseas and how they could help, but how there's some detractions from it. But here, and then after that, they just go nowhere with that really. And they also inserted a few lines from the original. I mean, it feels shoehorned into the movie. It's like, okay, that does not fit at all for what the sequence was going for. It didn't fit, it didn't make sense, and that actually bugged me. It was more like, hey, look, we're the original. And it's like, no, be your own thing. If you're gonna remake it, be your own thing. Don't keep winking at us that it's Robocop. We know it's Robocop. Overall, the Robocop reboot, remake, whatever you want to call it, I thought was enjoyable. It had some fun action sequences. Most of the acting is good. The script had a few lines that were pretty bad, and I cringed a bit, but overall, I felt the story was enjoyable. It took a couple twists and turns that the original didn't take, so it was a nice, refreshing change of pace for Robocop movies. I'm gonna give this movie a B. If you're a fan of the original, I say check it out, because you might enjoy it like I did. So what'd you guys think of the Robocop reboot? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Do you like it more than the original? That's not even a question, because it's no. Write me comments down there and tell me what you think, and if you like this video, hit that subscribe button down there, because if you're not, you're coming with me.